Hello, my name's Aline. Welcome to my channel. I am going to be making a lot of crochet and ceramic based videos. I figured since this is my first video ever, I would do a little introduction. I'm from California. That's about it. So anyway, in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make this sweater right here in my little bows. I'm going to go through all the steps. It'll be really in-depth. I just won't teach exactly how to do the stitches. For this piece, you'll need to know how to make a magic ring for the center of the granny square, single crochet, half double, double, and triple. If you don't already know how to do those, there are tons of videos out on YouTube, so I would highly recommend learning those stitches before you make this top. Let's see what else. It used, I'd say, about 800 yards of 100% acrylic yarn. I show the yarn later in the video, the exact one that I used, but I used about 800 yards of it. But as you can see, I had a lot of extra on both of my sleeves. So if you don't have that extra, you'll probably use less. I'm also a size small in tops. I'm a 32 chest size, so keep that in mind as well for how much yarn. This sweater is fully customizable. I get more in depth on that later in the video, but you can definitely adjust this to any size that you want. You can also make the sleeves long and tie them up. You can make them shorter. You can make this into just the two squares. You don't even have to make any sleeves. But yeah, so welcome to my first tutorial. It is my first tutorial, so I apologize if I leave anything out or don't explain anything clearly enough. Please leave a comment if something's not clear enough. I'd love to help explain it. But anyway, let's get into this cozy fall sweater. So for yarn, I am using 100% acrylic. You can see here it says that it calls for a 5mm hook, but I'm going to be using a 6.5mm hook. And so the thing is, the more you size up on your hook, the better draping effect you'll get with your yarn, and also the larger granny square you'll have. And so since the middle section of this top is just one large granny square, the larger the hook, the larger the size. So in using a 6.5mm hook on this weight 4 yarn, the main granny square will fit a small medium, because that's my sizing. If you did size up more on your hook, that granny square is going to be even bigger, so you could do that to make it fit a large, or you could also add extra rows to the end if you wanted to use a 6.5mm hook. So there's many ways to make this top fit your sizing depending on what sizing needs you have. So you're going to need those two, and of course some scissors. So let's get started. So we're going to start with making the front and back panel, which will be made by making 2 of these large granny squares, just to go into a little more depth about what I was saying about sizing up. So see here on the end, I added another row of half double crochet just so that it could fit the exact size that I wanted, so that the entire top covered from shoulder to shoulder for me. And so say you do this entire thing and you still want it bigger, you can continue adding more half double crochet rows, or from what we learned from the middle, you can add decorative rows to extend this granny square to be the size that you like. For now, I'm just going to teach you how to make this exact granny square, which again will fit a small or medium, because that's what I am. So let's get into it. So to start this top, you're going to make a magic ring. So once you make your magic ring, you're going to chain 1, which will count as your first single crochet, and now you're going to make 7 more single crochets in the magic ring so that you wind up with 8. So now you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches. You're going to take the tail of the magic ring and pull it. That's how you know you've made a good magic ring, is if you can pull its tail and everything comes taut, just like that. So now for row 2, you're going to be putting 2 double crochets in each stitch for a total of 16. The first, of course, is going to be 3 single crochets. No, 3 chains. So 1, 2, 3. So that's the 3 chains start. Then you're going to put another double crochet right in that stitch so that it can have a buddy. And now you're going to continue putting 2 in each. Alright, so I've done 14, the last 2 are going to go right in that hole. Tight squeeze. Alright, so that's 16 double crochets, and then you're going to finish off with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain from that starting chain. So that is round 2. So we've done round 1 and round 2. For round 3, we're going to be making this stitch, which you can see is 3 double crochets, but then they're all kind of crimped together at the top. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's how I like to do sunflower petals. I don't know what the name of this stitch is because I kind of just do it on the fly, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So to start row 3, you are going to again chain 3 because these are going to be the size of double crochets. And so now what you're going to do is in that stitch where this one is going to be joined, so in this stitch right here, you are going to do a double crochet but only go like that, and then just pull through the first loop instead of both, and then another double crochet, again only pulling through the first loop of that. So then once you have what looks like 3 double crochets on your top loop here, you're going to yarn over and you're going to take it through all 3 of those. So it's 3 double crochets, but then it gets pieced together at the top. And then you are going to chain 1. So you're going to put one of those in every single space all the way around. So to show you how to do it again, we're yarning over, going in, pull once, and then pull up again, but only through the first loop, yarn over, pull through, pull again through only the first loop. So now you should have 3, 1 from the chain, the first double crochet, the second double crochet, yarn over, pull once, twice, only through the first loop. So now we have the chain, the first, second, and third double crochet, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all of those. And so it kind of like flips it over to the side, and when we put stuff in between, they'll all get more defined. So that's what I'm doing for this round. I'm going to again put 1 in every single stitch all the way around. Alright, so I've come all the way around doing my bunches of double crochets, and now in order to finish the row, you're going to connect with a slip stitch to the first chain 3 from where we started, just like that. And now you have a finished row 3. So now to start row 4, you're going to pull up a loop. You want it to be about the size of the tip of your thumb. So that's going to be loop number 1. We're making a puff stitch, so you're going to go around and make it about the same size. That's loop number 2. Pull up, that's loop number 3. Around, that's 4. Pull up number 5, around 6. Pull up 7, around 8. Pull up 9. So once you have the 9 loops on your hook, you're going to pull through all of them, just like that. And then you're going to chain 1, 2, 3. And that is how you make a little puff stitch with a bunch of loops. So we're going to make one of those in between each of these clumps. I'll show it one more time. We're going to go around. These will all have 10 loops because we're starting with nothing, whereas we started with 1 from the chain from the previous row. So we have 1, 2 loops, around, up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Once you have all 10, you are going to again pull through everything and that chain. Then you are going to pull through, and there's another puff stitch. Chain 2 more. So 3 chains in between each. For the rest of them, this one has 9 loops. This one has 9 loops. This one has 10. The rest of them will all have 10. You're going to have a total of 16 puff stitches with 3 chains in between. Alright, so I'm coming in and finishing this 4th row, so I need to chain 2 more off of this last puff stitch, yarning over, going in between the sets of 3. So I've pulled up about the same length. So this is 3 and 4 loops, 5 and 6 loops. Let me get a better angle of that. 7 and 8 loops, 9 and 10. Yarning over, pulling through all of those loops, including the chain, chaining 1, 2, and 3. And then to connect it, you're going to go right in this top chain over here. So I'm going to insert and slip stitch right through there, and that finishes off the 4th row. Alright, so now we're going to move into the 5th row, and just like the number 5, we're going to be putting 5 double crochets in every single space between the puff stitches. Of course, you're going to start it with 3 chains, so 1, 2, 3, and then this one will be grouped with these 5 here. So I'm going to yarn over, put another one, and you're going to go around the chain instead of into the stitches of the chain. That's 3, again around the chain. Yeah, that's 4, and 1 more going around the chain. That's 5, counting our original. Then I'm going to move straight into this next section, and as you continue, you'll see that it'll spread out the chains nice and evenly. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And see how it kind of pulls these over so that they just sit around the puff stitch like that. So you're going to continue putting 5 on every single one of the chain 3s in between the puff stitches all the way around. So now to finish up this 5th row, just do a slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the first chain 3. And you can see how doing those 5, like, it makes these little scallops, and it definitely cleans up the puff stitch area. So that is how you finish row 5. Alright, so that's row 5. Now for the 6th row, you're going to make chains of 7 that connect on every 5th double crochet. So here to show you, we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then with that 7th crochet, you're going to slip stitch it at the end of the group of 5. So here we had a group of 5, here's where it ends. We're going to put slip stitch right in there. So you're essentially making large chain loops. So again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Find the end, slip stitch, and that's it. A fairly simple row. You're going to do that all the way around. Alright, so now you can see I've done the 7 chains around pretty much the entire thing. I'm just finishing this row up here. You're going to end this chain of 7 right where you started the previous one. So tight squeeze into that stitch, and then just like that. So to start the 7th row, To do our treble crochets in between each of them, we need to start with a chain. So we're going to chain 3 to match what will be a treble crochet in all the other rows, and then you're going to chain 5, which is the chain that will go in between them. 4 and 5, and now we're going to find where the next treble crochet is going to go, which is right here where the stitch connects to row 5. You're going to yarn over twice for a treble crochet, and then you're going to go in to that stitch and then do 1, 2, and 3 for a triple or treble crochet. And that's how that's going to look. We're going to do that all the way around, so I'll show you again. You'll chain 5, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over twice, and then right in here. Pull through once, twice, and a third time. Just like that. And you're going to do that all the way around. Alright, so here I'm finishing up row 7. You can see I've done the chain 5, and now I'm just going to connect it into what the treble crochet is from where we started, which was this chain of 3. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3 and insert my hook. Actually, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to insert my hook there and just pull through a slip stitch. So now your piece should look something like this. You have those smaller loops and then the bigger loops around them. So what we're going to put in the bigger loops is one of the variations of a shell stitch. Let me show the example. So for this shell stitch variation, it's going to be a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double, a triple, a double, a half double, and a single. So it goes up and then it goes back down to give that kind of shell shape, all in the chain area between the treble crochets. So let's give that a try. I'm going to start with a chain, just a chain of 1, because that's going to mimic the single crochet. And then we're going to do a half double, so that's a yarn over and then pulling through all of them. Then a double. Really learn all the stitches this way. Then a triple. 2 and 3. So that's all the way up, and now we're going to decrease. So just a double next. Then a half double, so that's yarning over but only pulling once all the way through, and then a single. And that's the completed shell stitch for this section. Then you're going to go immediately into the next section, and the way that it spread them out down here, it'll spread it down up there. So you're going to go straight into a single crochet right there, then a half double, a double, triple, double, starting to decrease, a half double, a single, and that's another shell complete. So then you're going to go around and do this on the chain part in between all of those treble crochets from row 7 to complete row 8. And now once I've finished that, I am just going to connect this single to our original single, which is more of just a chain from the previous row, with a slip stitch like all the other rows, just like that. And then we have a shelled row. So that's how we finish off row 8. Now for row 9, you can see we have our shells here, and then going in between the shells, you have a chain of 3, 2 treble crochets, another chain of 3, and then connecting into the treble crochet from the shell. And then that continues, chain of 3, 2 treble, or treble. I use those interchangeably. 3, and then that continues. So to start this row, you're gonna do 2 triple crochets because we're in between 2 of the shell stitches down here. So chain 3 for the first one, yarn over twice, and put another triple crochet in the same stitch. 3, and then after that you're gonna chain 3. And then you're going to put this stitch into the triple crochet from your shell with a slip stitch, just like that. And then you're going to continue this pattern, so another 3 chains before you put 2 triple crochets into one of these 2 single crochets. You can do it in either one. I try to line it up with this, so I'm going to put it into this stitch. So I've yarned over twice, that'll go in there, and then another one, like that. And then you continue this pattern of 3 chains and connecting to the top of this shell stitch all the way around. I'll do it one more time. So 3 chains off the triple crochet, connecting to the triple crochet in the shell stitch from the previous row, another 3 chains, and then 2 triples at the low point of the shell stitch. And then you just continue that all the way around. Alright, so I've gone all the way around doing 2 triple crochets in between the shell stitches with 3 chains in between them. Now I've done another chain 3, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the first chain 3 to finish off that row. So now this next row is pretty simple. You can see here that we have a large set of double crochets here. But in order for us to do those double crochets, we need something for them to sit on. So this next row is going to be making the chains that the double crochets are going to sit on. They're going to be chains of 9, and they will go from the top of one shell stitch all the way to the other side. So where we did those slip stitches is where you're going to connect the chains. So just to show how that's done, first of all, we're not starting at that shell stitch, so we need to get over to the shell stitch. So how we're going to do that is we're going to slip stitch our way over. So right now I'm in this stitch over here. I'm going to slip stitch through this one, and then through the next, just moving my way down the line until we get right where we need to start. So now I'm going to make a chain of 9 that'll loop from this side to this side. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so I've made that chain of 9, and now I'm going to connect it at the top of this shell stitch. So I'm going to do that with a slip stitch. I'm just going to go right in here, just like that, slip stitch the chain through, and there's your first chain of 9. So I'm going to do it one more time. And then going over to the next shell stitch, just slip stitching in that top loop, like that. So there you have 2 chains of 9, and you're going to do that all the way around, skipping over the 2 triple crochets going from shell to shell. So I'm finishing up this row here. I'm going to just slip stitch the last chain 9 into where I started. First one, just just like that. And so now you should have 16 of these large loops, and we're going to put 10 double crochets onto every single one of them, so that way at the end the entire surface is 160 double crochets, which is a number easily divisible by 4, which will help us start to turn this circle mandala into more of a square. So to start that, I'm going to chain 3, and this will be the first double crochet of the 10 that are going to go on this chain 9. So I'm going to do number 2 and 3, and so you're going to do the same thing on every chain 9, and as you do them it'll spread the loops out over your chain of 9. So I'm going to come back when this row is all done. Alright, so I've done my last 10 double crochets, and now I'm going to connect it to the first chain 3 that we did with just a slip stitch into the top chain, finishing off that row. So now the next row we're going to build on these 10 groups of 10 double crochets to start to make our square. So how we're going to do that is we're going to start by making the peak, like the corner of the square right where we're starting here. So I'm going to start with a chain 3, which in the future will be a triple crochet. Then I'm going to do 2 double crochets in the next 2 holes, then 2 halves, in the next 2 holes, and then counting these stitches, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I'm going to do 30 single crochets, and when I'm getting to this 4th set of double crochets, the last 5 stitches will increase in the opposite way that this one did. So I'll have 2 half doubles, 2 doubles, and then a triple ending this group of 4. So that way across 40 stitches, because each of those are groups of 10, that'll make one side of the square, and then you'll start to decrease. So I'm going to do 30 single crochets and then show how a full corner set would look. And that's 30 single crochets. So here is where we started. We have started to make that edge, and now just to finish that edge off for stitches 35 or 36 through 40, we're going to do 2 half double crochets, then 2 double crochets, then 2 triple crochets. So I'm going to do 1 in here, 2 and 3, chain 1, and then again 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to decrease, so 2 double crochets and 2 half double crochets, and then starting with the singles, and I'll stop so that you can get a good look at what that corner looks like. So we have our largest stitches here in the corner, and then if you were to hold it like this, you can see it starts to bring that corner out, and that would be a full edge. And the more we do, the more it'll start to straighten out, but as you can see, it's already starting to bring some shape to the corners. So you're going to continue this pattern. It'll be a total of 30 single crochets all the way down, then the 5 increase, 5 decrease, another 30 until you get back to the starting corner where you'll do your 5 increase, a triple crochet right here, 1 chain, and then connect it to where we start. So I'll show how that looks once I get all the way around. Alright, so I've just done the last 30 single crochets, and now I'm going to do the final increase. So that's 1 half double, or 2 half doubles, 2 doubles, a triple, a chain of 1, and then I'm going to connect it to the chain 3 that we started with, just like that, and that finishes off that row. So now it's starting to take more of a square shape. So much like what we did on this row where we did those large chains to be a foundation for double crochets, this next row is going to be a lot of the same. It's going to be triple crochets followed by chains of 5 in between them, and then on the corners it's going to be 2 triple crochets with a chain of 3 in between them. So that's what this next row is going to be. It's just the foundation of triple crochets with chains of 5 between them, and then with those special corners. So let's get into how to do that. So we are already at a corner right now, so what we're going to do is chain 3 for one of the triple crochets. Now the other triple crochet is going to go in the chain from before, so we're going to finish this corner at the very end, but right now we're just going to continue with another chain of 5. So it's a chain of 3 and then 5 more, which would be the across, and then we're going to do every 4 stitches a triple crochet. So that'll be a total of 10 on each row, since there were 40 stitches on the row. Just to show the example again, see, it's a triple crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then in the 4th stitch another triple crochet. So I have my chain of 3, I'm going to chain 5 more, and then wrap around twice, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to put it in the 4th stitch, just like that, and that's the first one. So then again, it's a chain of 5 in between, and then a triple, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the 4th stitch. So I'm going to continue and then show you how to do a corner once I get there. So now you can see I'm approaching a corner. Here I have those 2 triple crochets with the 1 chain between them, and if I counted 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to end up in the space right between them, which is exactly what we want. So now I'm going to again chain 5, and then I'm going to put 2 double crochets in the space, 2 triple, crochets in between the 2 triple from the increase on the previous row, and I'm going to chain 3 in between them. So there's the first one in that space, a chain 3, and then the other one, just like that. So that is the first completed corner. Now I'm going to chain 5 again, and then put another triple, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this stitch. And continue all the way around like that, and then I'll show how to finish the corner that we started when I get there. So coming back around to where we started this row, you can see here is where I did the chain of 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a triple crochet right in this area, then do my chain 3 and connect it to complete the last corner of this row. And then I'll go 1, 2, And that's the last corner. So now it should be looking something like this. We only have 2 rows left to go. For these last 2 rows, it's going to be 5 half double crochets in each of the sections, and then the last row is just a half double crochet on every single one, and then I skipped the corners, but I'll show that when I get to it. So for this next row, we're just doing 5 half double crochets in every little window, including the corners. I'm going to start with this section because we're here, so I am going to chain 2, and that'll count as the first one. Actually, that one's going to go in this section, so I'm going to do 5 further on here. So this one will count to when we finish off this corner at the very end of the row. So I'm starting with 5 in the first section. So there's the first 5 for that section, and then I'm going to continue doing 5 in every single section all the way around, including the corners. Now that I have 4 of the half double crochets on this corner, I'm just going to slip stitch into the top chain, and that will complete that row. So now moving on to the last row, you are going to put 1 half double crochet in every single half double crochet that we just made, and then on the corners, since there are 5 on the middle one, you're going to skip it. So you're going to put a half double crochet here, then you are going to chain 3 to help make a nice corner arch, and then put another half double crochet in the third. So it would be 1 here, chain 1, 2, 3, and then another one there. So I'm going to start putting half double crochets all the way through, and then when I get to the first corner, I will show how that works. So I've done half double crochets across that entire top. It's really important to keep a similar tension throughout the entire part of this row, because it'll be, if it's your last row, it's going to define the shape of your piece. So now that I'm on the corner, I am going to put half double crochets in the 2 outside stitches, but the number 3 stitch in the middle of this corner section I'm going to leave empty, and there will be a chain 3 in its place. So here is half double crochet number 1, number 2, chain 3, and then I'm skipping this one, going in to the 4th stitch with half double crochet number 3, and then another one in this stitch, just like that. And then I'm going to continue on putting 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way down. So coming around to the last corner, this again was going to be our last half double crochet, this chain 2, so we should only be doing 3 here, because remember we're skipping that middle one. So I'm going to put 1 in here, and then this is the one we're skipping, so I have 1, 2, and then chain 3. Then I'm going to put 1 more in the stitch right next to where we started. And then slip stitch to the chain 2 from the beginning of this row. And that is it. Alright, so I've gotten to the point where my square goes from shoulder to shoulder, and that's how I know that I am done with it. So if your shoulder measurement is about 18 inches, then that's the same as mine, and that's where you would stop and then create a second one. You want 2 identical pieces for the front and the back of your sweater.
If you want to make more rows, you can continue with just a half double crochet or with any of the more advanced stitches that we did earlier. And if you want to do less, you can always subtract a few rows off. But this is about how it should look when it's done. It needs to be blocked. I'll go through blocking maybe later in the video. If not, there's a bunch of YouTube tutorials that you could totally follow for blocking. So this is the finished square. Go ahead and do a second one, and then we will move on to the sleeves. Here is a finished arm piece. You're going to be making 2 of these. I freehanded this design, but I'm going to go through it step by step throughout the video for each row. The dimensions of this piece are 25 inches long and 18 inches wide when you stretch it completely out this way. So this side is 18 inches. That's important because that's how many rows you're going to have based on this side measurement. And so if your armpit measurement is 18 inches, so that means that this side is going to be wrapping around my armpit right here. If that's your armpit measurement, then you should do the same amount of rows that I do. But if it's smaller, do less rows. If it's bigger, do more rows. And you can always just add the types of rows that I'm going to show throughout the tutorial for these arm parts. And then again, your starting chain should just be all the way down your arm. Stop. This is me from the future, where I finished this sweater, which was free-handed, which is why I made this mistake. So I made my sleeves way too long. As you can see, this whole section here is doubled up because if I were to untie this, it's literally this long. Now, if that's comfortable for you, you can continue doing whatever you're gonna do. But what I would recommend at this point is after you have chained your entire arm length, subtract like at least 20 stitches because she will be long. After you block, she will be very long. And while I love this little tied up look, if it's not what you're going for, subtract 20 stitches, at least, okay? Account for blocking, account for it not starting at the top of your shoulder. The weight is pulling my starting point down here. So, cautionary tale, although this is cute and I love it, subtract some stitches if you don't want it to be this long. And if you do, make sure you go buy some of those. Well, this is just ribbon, but yeah.
Alright, so this is the sleeve in its entirety. We're going to start down here with a base chain and then a row of double crochets, just 1 in every single chain. Mine again is going to be 74 stitches, so I'm going to make a base chain of 74 and put 1 double crochet in each to match this arm. Alright, so here I have a 74 chain base for my project, which is again from the top of your shoulder all the way down to your wrist or however long you want your sleeve to be. And now the next row will just be putting 1 double crochet in every single stitch. So I'm going to start off with a chain of 2 to be that first double crochet. So the first 3 chains will be the first stitch, then I'm yarning over and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 4th stitch is where I am putting the first full double crochet. So that's the first stitch, and I'm going to go down the line putting 1 double crochet in every hole. Alright, and that is the finished first row, all double crochets, 1 in each loop. Now for the next row is going to be a kind of eyelet stitch where you have your base and then in every other double crochet you do another one, and in between is 1 chain. So just to get a better look at that, you would do a double crochet, chain 1, and then skip a double crochet and put your hook into the next hole. So I'm going to show you how to do that on this next row. So for this next row, you're going to chain 3 and flip your work. And now going towards the left, I'm going to chain 1 more, so that's a chain of 4. Yarn over and then count 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and I'm going to put a double crochet in this loop.
Then I'm going to chain 1, yarn over, count 1 and 2, and put a double crochet there. Chain 1, yarn over, 1 and 2, just like that. And then this pattern will continue for the rest of the row. So then if you have an uneven number at the end, see I would go in this one and then there would be an uneven number here, you could just chain one number less than the number of double crochets you have left. So see I have 3, so I'm going to chain 2 and then just put a double crochet in this last stitch so that nothing is forgotten. And that is the end to row 2. You're going to start by chaining 3, flipping your work, and then we'll yarn over and put 1 in this square. We'll actually put 2 in this square since this is where we did our chain 2 to finish that last row. So I've done 1 and 2. And then I'm going to put a double crochet into the double crochet from the previous row, followed by 1 in the open area. You can see I'm not going into the chain 1, I'm just going around it. It goes a lot faster if you do it that way. It's difficult to try to get it into the chain, but then when you have your actual stitches, you can just work your double crochets into those stitches. So here I've done a bit. So just 1 in, of course the exception on the end, but 1 in each square and then 1 on each double crochet all the way down the row, and I'll meet you at the end. So I've come to the end of this 3rd row, and what I'm going to do is put the last double crochet in the 3rd chain from the chain 3 that we started with. Just like that to finish out that row. So now you should have a long strip that looks like this. So from where we ended our last row, you are going to chain 3 and flip your work. This is going to act as the high point of a wave, so the triple crochet in the middle. Then we are going to yarn over and put a double crochet in the next loop, then a half double, then a single, and then a slip stitch. And now you are going to just do the opposite of that, increasing up, and then once you get to the triple crochet at the middle, you decrease back down. So now I'm going to do a full wave stitch. So I have a single crochet, a half double, a double, triple, a double, a half double, a single, and a slip stitch. So now the wave is starting to take shape. You can see here's the half wave from our first stitch and another wave. You're going to continue that pattern all the way down your row until you get to the end. So I'm coming up on the end of this wave row. You can see I only have 1 stitch left, and it happens to be a half double crochet on the decrease side of the wave. So I'm going to put that right in that last stitch, and that will finish off the wave row. So I've flipped my work and I'm going to get started on the next row. I'm going to start with a chain of 3 to be the first triple crochet, and since you're probably going to land in a different spot on the end of this row, this first part will vary for everyone, but depending on where you ended in your wave stitch, you're going to crochet 1 less than the number of spaces either between the next triple crochet or the next slip stitch, depending on where you finish. Since my next one would be a triple crochet and there is just 1 and 2 between where I'm starting and that triple crochet, I'm only going to chain 1 extra. So I have my chain of 3, I'm going to add a 4th one, yarn over twice, and then put a triple crochet into the triple crochet from the previous row. Then I'm going to chain, my camera died, but as I was saying, you are going to then chain 4, yarn over twice, and your next triple crochet will go in either the following slip stitch or triple crochet from the previous row, depending on what your last one was. Since my next one would be a slip stitch, that's where I'm going to put mine. There you go. So it's starting to make these big squares. Now I'm going to get into the regular pattern because it shouldn't vary anymore. So you're going to continue by chaining another 4, yarning over twice, and putting the next stitch in the triple crochet from the previous row, chaining 4 again, and the next triple goes in the slip stitch. So you are going to repeat this pattern all the way down the row. It'll look a little clunky in the beginning, but it'll start to straighten out later, and then we're going to have a nice row of squares that follows the wave pattern from the wave below. So I'm going to do the rest of this row and come back when I'm closer to the end. So I'm coming to the end of this row. Since we started with a triple crochet by making 3 chains on the start of the wave row, I've chained 4, and then I'm just going to put a triple crochet, into that chain 3 where we started, just like that, and that will finish off this row. So you should have your work look something like this. Now for this next row, we're basically going to do the inverse of this wave stitch on the top. So to start this next row, I am going to chain 1 for the slip stitch that would be the opposite of the triple crochet from the wave row. Then in these boxes, I'm going to put the rest of the stitches. So that's going to be a single crochet, followed by a half double, then a double, and then I'm going to yarn over twice and put the triple crochet in this triple crochet from our box row. And much like in our granny squares, doing this will help pull these stitches over. You can also do it manually, but as you do it more, it'll start to pull the stitches over, and we'll get the inverse effect of what we did down here, which will eventually flatten out as we do more rows. So now I'm going to decrease. I have a double crochet and then a half double, again all over this chain, not into the chain. Then I'm going to do a single. And then for this row, rather than doing slip stitches, just to make it easier for our future selves, I'm going to put single crochets in the place of the slip stitch. So you're going to be doing 3 single crochets. So now we're going to do the third one in this empty space, then a half double, then a double, and a triple goes in this triple crochet. So go ahead and continue that down the rest of the row. So I'm putting a single in this triple crochet because it's above where the triple crochet was before. And now if you have a section on the end where it's not exactly the same as the rest of the sections, you're just going to continue with matching whatever was there. So all I had was a double crochet and a half double. So since I did a single in here, I'm going to do a single in the square area and then a half double as well. And that would finish the row off for me, but again, you're going to do whatever matches what was on the bottom for you. So now you can see it's starting to even out a little bit on the top and giving you kind of a zigzag effect in those square stitches. For the next row, it is going to be just double crochets all the way across. So go ahead, flip your work and chain 3 for that first double crochet, and now you're just going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch like we did on this first row and the third row. So I've finished up this row of double crochets and you can see it's all starting to straighten out a little bit. Now for the next row, it is going to look like this. So we are going to be making chains of 7 and placing them every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. So you'll count 5 and place it in the next one. And we'll do that all the way down. All right, so after you have flipped your work, you are going to chain 7. And then you are going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, and in that 6th stitch you are going to just place a single crochet and then continue with the same pattern all the way down the row. So coming to the end of this row of chain 7s, I am left with 8 stitches. Of course, the number might be different for you. What I would recommend is if it's a number closer to 7, I would just add on an extra chain or if it's a number close to 6, excuse me, add on another chain or 2 to make it so that it would reach the end with still a little bit of give. So if I have a total of 7 stitches here, I am going to have a chain of about 8 and still put the chain in that last stitch. You won't be able to tell when it's all together that this number is different from the other stitches. But if your number is farther away from 7, I'd recommend splitting that area up into maybe a shorter segment over here and then still a 7 segment before you finish. So now that we have this row of these little loops, what we're going to do is connect them from the middles of the loops by doing a chain of 5 in between. So to start the row, I'm going to chain 3 to be almost like a double crochet, and then I'm going to chain another 3, so a total chain of 6. And that chain of 3 will help us reach the middle of this chain 7. Now I'm going to put a single crochet into this chain 7. And then I am going to chain 5. And put that chain 5 into the middle of the next chain 7 with a single crochet so that it starts to make these kind of triangles like that. So I am finishing up this row of making the triangles. When you get to the end, you can chain 2 or however many you need to get you to the end. I'm going to chain 2 and then I'm going to put a double crochet in the base chain of that first chain 7 just to bring us up to the top of the chain like that, and that will finish off the row. So now what you're going to do is add 6 double crochets to each of these gaps for this next row, and then for the end gaps you're going to add an equal number on both sides. However many will get you up to your total stitch count. So for me, if I count out every single gap and put 6 in it, it'll be 66, but my starting number was 74, so that's 8 in between, so I need to get 4 in this corner and 4 on my beginning corner to make up for those 8 stitches. So I'm going to flip my work, chain 3, and that'll be my first one of 4. Then I'm going to put the next one in the actual hole, so that's 2. Then I'm going to do 3 and 4. So that's the first empty area. Now in this next empty area, I'm going to do the same pattern, which will be for the rest of the row, which is 6 double crochets all the way down. So there is 6 double crochets in that one, and I'm just going to continue doing that in every single open space all the way down, and then 4 in my very last open space. Alright, so I finished putting 6 double crochets in each, and then I ended with 4 in the last one to get me back up to my number of 74 stitches. Now for this next row, what we're going to be doing is making this kind of netting stitch. So we're going to start at this bottom net stitch row where we're going to be doing chains of 5 and placing them in every 3rd stitch. Alright, so after you have flipped your work, you are going to chain 5. Then you are going to count 1, 2, 3, and in that 3rd stitch, you're going to slip stitch that chain 5 in, chain 5 again, and then again you're going to count 1, 2, 3, and in that third one, a slip stitch. So then you start to get these smaller loops, and then you're going to continue that all the way down the row. So coming to the end of this row, I have 4 stitches, so instead of doing a chain of 5, I'm going to do a chain of 6, and then just put it in that last 4th stitch rather than the 3rd to finish off the row. So now with these smaller loops, we're going to start making kind of like a mesh stitch where you put just a single crochet in every loop, and instead of going into the chain like we did down in these rows, you're just going to go around the chain. So to get started, you're going to flip your work and chain 3, 4, 5. Chain 5 to start, and then just put a single crochet right in that first loop, which will give you a straight edge on the end and a little bit coming around. Then you can chain another 5 and put it right in the next loop just with a single crochet, and you can see it starts to make a diamond pattern. So you'll chain 5 again and put it in the next open area with a single crochet. So it's going to start to look like this. You're going to do that all the way down the row, and then you're going to do another row like this. So do this stitch for a total of 2 rows. Alright, so now coming to the end of this last row, it's 1 loop, and so of course we're going to chain 5 and put a single crochet into that loop. But now to finish off this row so that there's a straight edge on the end, you're going to chain 2, yarn over, and then put a double crochet into the base chain just so that we're on the same level as the rest of the row. Then you're just going to chain 5 and continue doing what we did the last row, which is putting a chain 5 with a single crochet into the open part of the next area. So you're going to go ahead and do the same thing as the last row all the way down on this next row. So at the end of this row, where I have that little beginning piece from the previous row, I am going to put the chain of 5 in it, and then I am going to chain 3, flip my work, and for this next row, instead of continuing the stitch that we've been doing, you're going to connect all of the diamonds together using just a chain of 3. So I have this chain, I'm going to chain 2 more because we're at an end. I'm gonna not slip stitch it, I'm gonna single crochet it into that loop. And now instead of doing 5 to connect these, I'm gonna do just 3 and then put it in. Another 3, and in again. And see, that way it kind of starts to make a top flat area for this row that we can build off of later. So I have gotten to the end of connecting all of the diamonds with chains of just 3, and now I'm at the end here, and what I'm going to do is chain 2 and then put a double crochet into the base chain from this chain 5 from the previous row to bring us up to the top, and then you should be left with a mesh stitch that looks like diamonds, and then we're going to spread it out a little bit by adding double crochets to the top. I have 23 openings, so with 3 stitches in each of them, that's 69 stitches. Since I need my stitch count to be 74, that means I'm missing 5. So 3 will go on one end and 2 will go in the very other end. We'll start with 2. So what I'm going to do is flip my work. And now to get started, I am going to chain 3, which would be double crochet number 1, then I'm going to put another one in the open space, again just going around the chain and not into it, and that is 1 and 2. So that's all I'm going to do for this first section. Now for this second section, I'm going to put 3 inside of it, going around the chain and not into the chain. It's 2 and 3, and then I'm going to go straight into the second section, which again just helps pull all of the stitches towards each other. So 1, 2, 3, I'll do another one. 1, 2, 2, and 3. And now it's starting to kind of bring this mesh stitch up more, and so you're just going to continue down this entire row, putting 3 in every single one, and then count how many you'd need to put in your end stitches. So I'll come back when I'm at the end of this row. So I have finished my last set of 3 double crochets, and now you can see that it's all starting to take shape. We have a flat top again. And now for the next stitch, I'll show you the example. We are going to make these large holes, which are comprised of a double crochet, 5 chains, and then another double crochet 5 stitches later. So to do that, we're going to flip our work and chain 3 to act as that first double crochet. So we have a chain of 3, and then we chain 5 more, which would be what goes in between. So now we have a chain of 8. And then we are going to count 5 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in that 5th stitch, we're going to put a double crochet. Just like that. And then we'll chain another 5, and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in that 5th stitch goes another double crochet. So now we have those blocks starting to take place. Now I am finishing up this row. You'll see I only have 3 stitches left before the end, so instead of doing the normal 5, I've just chained 3, and then I'm going to put a double crochet in that first stitch. Just like that, and then that finishes off this row. Now for the next row, you're going to be putting 5 double crochets in each of these spaces. Since my starting count was 74 and I have enough of these squares to make 65 double crochets, I'm going to put 4 in the first one and 5 in the last one to bring me back up to my number of 74. So I'm just going to continue putting 5 double crochets. Again, you're going around the chain, not into it, for the rest of this row, and I will come back when I'm at the end. So I just finished the row of putting 5 double crochets in every opening. Now for this next row, you are going to be doing the same exact stitch that we did in row 2. Remember where we left these like open squares by doing a double crochet, an open space, a double crochet in the next stitch, an open space with a chain between them. We're going to be doing it up again at the top. So it's that same exact stitch from row 2, and you're going to repeat that all the way down the row. So then again, just like the first time we did this row, instead of having a space of 2 for me to put the last one, I have 3. So instead of a chain 1, I'm going to use 2, and then I am going to just put my double crochet in this last stitch rather than where it would normally go, just to finish off that row. Now for the next row, we're going to be doing a variation of something that we've done before. It's chains of 7. But instead of placing it every 6 stitches, this time it's going to be every 1, 2, 3, 4. So every 4th stitch, you're going to place your chain of 7 back into the work. So let's give that a go. To start this row, I'm going to do just the chain of 7, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that 4th stitch, I am going to put it in with a slip stitch. Then again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then count 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch that chain in. Again, one more time, it's a chain of 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and that one gets a slip stitch. So then you are going to continue that pattern all the way down the row. This makes those chains stick out more than it did in the original row. So go ahead and finish that, and I will meet you at the end. So now I'm putting that last chain 7 in the 4th stitch, which is right down over here in that chain 3. And that finishes off that row. So now for the next row, what we're going to do is a lot like what we did down here, where we're going to be connecting the tops of those chain 7s with chains of 4 this time. So what we are going to do is flip our work. Now to get started on this row, I am going to chain 3 to act as a double crochet and get that height, and then I'm going to chain another 2, so that's a chain of 5, and then I'm connecting it to the middle chain of the chain 7, so that would be chain 4. Now I'm going to do a chain of 4, just like that, and I'm going to place it in the top chain from this chain 7, which again would be the 4th chain, and that kind of connects it and makes this triangle shape. So I'm going to do it again, another 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that goes right in the middle of this chain with a slip stitch, and again 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will go over here with a slip stitch. Just like that. So you're going to continue that pattern of connecting the tops of the chain 7s with chains of 4 all the way down this row. Alright, so getting to the end of this row, I am putting this chain of 4 in the middle of the chain 7 with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 2 and put a double crochet in the base chain to bring me back up to the top. And now your row should look something like this. So now what you're going to do is put 4 double crochets in each of these spaces. For me, I have 17 spaces times 4 is 68. So to get up to my 74 stitch count, my little end pieces are each going to have 3 to give me that total of 6 I need to get back to 74. So I am going to chain 1, 2, 3 to be the first double crochet. I'm putting 2 more in this area to get me that 3, which will eventually be my extra 6 stitches. And now I'm going to go into the repetitive pattern of 4 double crochets in this section. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like that. So you're going to go ahead and put 4 double crochets in each of these openings all the way down the row. Alright, so I have that last group of 4 and then a group of 3 to get me up to my stitch count. And now we are on our final row for the sleeve. We are going to flip our work and chain 1, 2, 3 to be that first triple crochet, and then chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then yarn over twice and put a triple crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the 6th stitch. 1, 2, and alright, and so in finishing off this row, instead of having 6 stitches here, I have 7. So instead of the normal chain 5, I am chaining 6, and then I am putting the double crochet in the very end over here, or triple crochet, excuse me, the triple crochet in the very end over there, and then I'm going to do a slip stitch, pull super tight, cut the yarn, and that is the end for this sleeve. So yes, like I said before, go ahead and do another one of these sleeves, identical to how you did the last one. If you need it to be bigger, you can just continue adding rows up here with any of the styles that you learned from the rest of this sleeve. And now we are going to put our 4 pieces together. Alright, so you can see here I've laid out the 2 middle pieces, which would be the chest piece and the back piece. I have them wrong sides facing up. You can see that they're both upside down, and what I've done is I have pinned them together on the same parts on each side where I want my neckline to end. So I want this to be a pretty broad neckline. I want it to end relatively close to my shoulders. So I've gone in 4 stitches on each side and put a little stitch marker just to remind myself that that's where I want it to end, and I've done it in the same exact place on the other side. And then what you're going to do is use those stitch markers, or you don't need to use stitch markers, but this just makes it easier to flip them together. And then you can use slip stitches or single crochets in however many stitches you've left, and then over to the corner to get these parts together. So now you can flip it back open to the wrong sides, and you can see that the stitches that we made are on the wrong side, so when you're wearing your piece you won't be able to see that, and it'll be a seamless join from the outside of your work. So now that we have a straight edge on the side, and of course we'll cut and tie away those pieces later, I'm going to arrange the sleeves out and show you how we're going to connect those. So here's how I've laid out the sleeves. You can see that I've found the approximate middle on both sides of the sleeves and pinned it to right where we put together our initial closing together of these 2 squares. So you can do that with the middle of your sleeve, and then stretch your sleeve a significant amount and pin both sides of the sleeve equidistant from that middle. So what I've done is I've gone about 25 stitches down on the original granny square, and I've pinned that part of the sleeve, and then I went 25 stitches up and pinned it up here, and have done the same exact thing on the other side. Now what I'm going to do is, by pulling it up this way so we have right sides together, on the wrong side I am going to just do single crochets all the way down on both sides, and then show you the final way that we close it up after that, and then we will be done with the sweater. So now you can see, using a single crochet, I've put both of the sleeves on this piece, and the final step will be picking it up by its neckline and flipping it like this. Now what you want to do is, starting at the wrist, which you could connect like this, you want to crochet down the wrist and all the way down the side of the sweater. So I'll show it on this side, which you could probably see a little bit easier. You are going to crochet up and then across. So here is the final sweater. You can see that it's like a bit off the shoulder. Now, I know I put the cautionary tale earlier in the video, but when you block it, your sleeves will get longer. I wound up just tying mine up with little bows. I think it's cute. I like it, but if you want your sleeves to be the right length, obviously now you'd have to make them shorter. I'd say by maybe about like 20 stitches shorter than what the actual length would be, because that's what I wound up folding it up. So definitely listen to that, and if you've got all the way to the end and you didn't listen to it, just tie it up with bows. But yeah, here's the final sweater. So thank you for watching my first crochet tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.